Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Transformation Perspective. I'm your host, Harper. This is episode 9 on immigration today. Today's title for episode 9 is Immigration Impact on the Economy. We're going to dive into the last installment and we're going to slowly transition over to our next topics that we're going to get into before we fastly approach the election here in less than 2 months. So let's dive into some headlines to start off with this in the past week. But we do have breaking news from this afternoon. There was potentially another assassination attempt on Donald Trump at his golf course in Mar-a-Lago. Not many details known besides Secret Service identified a shooter. Gunshots were fired. They apprehended the weapon and the shooter. So I guess we'll know more details later. So stay tuned. Other things, Harris and Trump debated this past week. If you watched that episode, the debate special I posted on Wednesday, definitely take a look at that. Just kind of recap everything. And also a jobs report. I didn't get a chance to talk about that in the previous episode, but jobs report. There was 142,000 jobs added in August, and unemployment ticked down to 4.2%. So a little lower than expected. Jobs report. So we'll see what the feds will do this coming week on cutting inflation. Cutting interest rates. It looks like they're going to cut. How much is going to be the question, how the markets respond, and what's that going to do for the campaigns going forward. So stay tuned for headlines for next week. So let's dive into our topic for today, try to wrap up this immigration topic. This has been a 4-part series, but it kind of piggies back into our first topic of immigration. So kind of first topic, I should say, about the economy. My bad. My speaking ability is not the greatest today, I guess. So first question that I propose is, what is the impact of illegal immigration on the economy? So what we've got is, so some of the research that I found, the fiscal impact of illegal immigration is estimated to cost over $161 million. I think that's billion, my typo on that one. The more populated cities like New York City could increase the, oh wait, no, it is millions because New York City could potentially, like bigger cities like LA and New York City could be within the billions of dollars for their fiscal year, what would potentially cost. So it is costly. However, we're going to get into more statistics that it's not all the negatives which you think it might be. Maybe ads out there, political ads you might be seeing, or even on the campaign trail that you might have from senators or House of Representatives or even Donald Trump portraying that immigration is a drain on the economy. We're going to kind of debunk a couple of those facts today. But yeah, $361 million average potentially across the United States is what potentially communities are facing per year of illegal immigrants coming to their communities. So the cost of community expenses on education is higher when the immigrants have a high school education or less, is estimated to cost school districts or communities by $17,000 to $75,000 just on the education in a school year. Yes, is it a strain on education? Absolutely, it is. If you have an influx of English language learners, schools don't have the resources. Influx of students, you don't have enough teachers, you don't have enough resources for all that. Education is already short on teachers. The pay isn't very great. Long hours. I'm speaking from experience. Lack of substitute teachers, lack of resources. We really haven't invested into our education system in quite some time. And I'm going to go into that detail a little bit later in this episode of why that is also important when it comes to immigration, that they all tie together. And we need solution-based aspects, not problem-based solutions that we're kind of keep proposing. But it is costly. So what can you do about it? If we keep looking at the negatives and never propose any solutions, we're never going to fix anything. So another aspect is illegals have a net positive gain for Social Security and Medicare because they are barred from the benefits. Yes, illegal immigrants that are employed in the United States do pay taxes. I've heard that, oh, they don't pay taxes. Yes, they do. And they actually do contribute to Social Security and Medicare. And we know that Social Security funding is always a hot topic. It comes up and then we don't talk about it. Do we increase the tax or not? Do we decrease the amount being allotted? No, we've increased it, the Social Security for those benefits, but it keeps depleting because there's not enough workers supplying into Social Security because of the mass baby boomer generation that's taking it out and not enough going in. But they do contribute. So if you remove those in mass deportations, it's only going to put more of a strain on Social Security and Medicare for the future. So that needs to be taken into consideration when looking at this. Illegal immigrants are a significant net fiscal drain because they are paying less in taxes than their use of public services like welfare programs like WIC and SNAP, which are basically your food stamps and women, single mothers who are in need of supplies as well for their families. So if you're looking at this aspect, they're not the only ones. I didn't have time to dive into statistics about what that aspect is on just American-born citizens of what they're doing on public services and welfare programs. But they do, all right, have a significant impact. But once again, there's a reason for that, all right? Less educated pay less. There is kind of a discrimination aspect taking place on the wages being portrayed for immigrants. You don't, illegal immigrants, some companies might be paying them less than standard wages than others. So that plays a factor into those welfare programs that are well needed. So another interesting fact here, though, is compared to 100 years ago, you're looking at the turn of the century, the last major increase in immigration to this country. There was a lot of industrial jobs available for less educated individuals. So, not having a high school education, you could easily just go to the factories and work. They also paid relatively higher wages than they do now. We've already talked about this in the economy that, yes, you adjust for inflation. Your dollar actually stretched way better back in 1968. And even the concept back in the turn of the century for the 1900s for what they did. So if you think about it, there's jobs available for not needing a high school education. And I'm going to get to this as well. In 1917, the vocational school system for K through 12 was established. So even before that, we don't have K through 12 education to graduate from high school. So that plays a major factor into it as well. So think about that. If we don't have jobs per se for illegals to come here, they're going to put a strain on welfare programs. Okay. But also at the same time, looking at it, what are those jobs that they can take on potentially? So here's another question being proposed here that I inquired question that I came up with is, what is the solution-based approach to the problem of fiscal drain on the illegal, let me start that again. Illegal immigrants have on our economic system. If you're watching on TikTok, the full episode is on my YouTube channel. Check it out. So Continuing on here. So the question, like I said, to restate that is, what is the solution-based approach to the problem of physical drain? So if pundits are arguing that illegal immigrants coming here are a fiscal drain on our economy, it's detrimental. We get rid of them, deport them, like Trump has said. And even he was asked in the debate, how would you go about deporting 11 million immigrants? No answer, really. There is actually precedence for that. We have deported mass amounts of immigrants before and what it did to the economy. I'll get to that in just a little bit here. So here is some solution bases from a resource that I've got is the Center Budget of Policy Priorities. So here it is, unquote, given all residents access to economic opportunity would enable them to earn higher wages, spend more on the economy, and contribute more to the tax bases from which states fund schools and other investments that are critical to strong economies. So if you remove the immigrants that are already contributing to the economy, because they are paying taxes, they are spending their money, and I'll get to those statistics later, all right? That's going to have a net negative effect on these local communities. Yes, it is a strain right now, the here and now. But if you all of a sudden just pull them out, that is going to be extremely harmful on those communities and their economies and the entire nation economy. So that is not a solution. We need solution bases. They're here. Removing them is not the option. You got to think of solution aspects. So here, same thing from the same source. Allow immigrants who are undocumented to obtain driver's license, which would not only help them get better jobs, but could improve public safety and modestly reduce insurance premiums. So there has been arguments, I've heard this, that, illegal immigrants, you want to give them driver's license, and how dare you? Think about that. We have so many license aspects that you need in this country. What is wrong with simply educating somebody how to properly drive? If we can trust a 16-year-old to go on the roads and drive, if any of you are parents, I have children who are at that age of driving, I'm sure your anxiety is through the roof right now, right? I can't wait another how many more years until my kids drive and the anxiety is going to go through my roof. But that aspect is like, if we make the roads safer by saying, we don't want to, there's plenty of American-born citizens who drive without a license, without insurance. They drive under the influence. Taking away those licenses, hasn't worked. You haven't removed those people from this country. So here's the thing. If we educate those individuals that are here, came illegally, given the proper tools to be successful on the roads, understanding our traffic systems, our traffic laws, it's different a little bit everywhere here and there. But if you understand these aspects, then maybe that will help as well, right? Solution-based things you want here. Another solution from the Center Budget of Policy and Priorities is allowing students, regardless of documentation, to pay in-state tuition at public colleges and universities and to obtain state financial aid, which over time would boost skills and wages of the state workforce. Okay, so illegals should not be granted any kind of state funding, any tuition, benefits like anybody else. But think about this. I'm going to tie this in. What I'm leaning on for next week is like crime, because this keeps getting brought up. It was brought up in the debate heavily by Trump, how crime rates have increased. I'm going to get to that. You educate people, provide them with tools, provide them with resources. Like I say, you got to invest into education, something we haven't done in quite some time. It's a whole nother topic. But think about this. Here's a solution base. Well, they're taking taxpayer dollars. I think I've mentioned this before. Why can't we just make it public funding dollars? If K through 12 is publicly funded by tax dollars, why can't we switch universities over to the same thing? Property taxes fund universities instead of paying tuition aspects, right? It's like a private school. So if we make universities public education as well, right? Tax dollars, it benefits everybody. That's that social contract theory, once again, that I'm tying back in from the very first episodes that I had, right? What is best for the entire community? That's not socialism. I keep addressing that. Speaking of that, I should bring that up for a topic as well. That's just a side note. So, if you look at what's best for the community at whole, that how to make everyone benefit, but I still prosper, those are some of those aspects that should be taken into account. So let's look at some other solution-based things. I got two more for you. Strengthening labor law enforcement to ensure that all workers, regardless of immigration status, okay, are paid what they earn, and to help level the playing field for both businesses and workers in the state. I could go off on a tangent about wages and a whole bunch of aspects of the economy. If you pull wages up too fast, it spikes inflation. But if you look at my previous episodes on the economy and how we did not boost wages after slashing taxes during the 1980s over and over and over again, what ends up happening is our wages did not grow like they predicted on trickle-down economics. I'm sorry. So to ensure that all workers, regardless of immigration status, that means those who are documented, that come here legally, illegals, and how about native-born Americans as well? Providing equal opportunities and benefits of their pay would boost competition that's here, right? Instead of competing for lower wage immigrants, and we claim, oh, they're taking all their jobs. Okay, but are the companies the ones that are doing that? They're hiring undocumented immigrants and paying them less. Are they taking their jobs, or are corporations actually doing the taking of the jobs from Americans because they want to skim off profits? Just saying, based on my previous episodes and the research that I've done now. Another solution base is expanding access to healthcare coverage. Oh boy, that's a topic that I need to get to and cover. Okay. Healthcare coverage to all children, regardless of immigration status. Yeah. That I'm going to pull up statistics here in just a second. That should be a universal right, not a privilege, a right. The founding fathers didn't need healthcare aspect because modern medicine really didn't exist. All right. If you took a doctor and cut you open, you could easily die from an infection back then. All right. We have such an advancement in modern medicine that we should rewrite that Declaration of Independence or the Constitution, all right, and claim life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and healthcare is an unalienable right. Right? So immigration, regardless of immigration status, which can lead to better long-term health outcomes, which is greater for high school and college completion, right? And long-term economic benefits for the child and for the states and local communities. There are plenty of studies that out there that based on your economic status and you can't afford fresh fruits and vegetables and the nutritional value that's going to benefit you, and you're buying processed foods constantly, your health isn't as strong as those who can afford fresh fruits and vegetables and not processed foods. Like basically they call them organic, right? Aspects. I'm not saying just eat organic, but in retrospect, those kind of like shop the outside of the grocery store, not up and down the aisles, they say. Fresh stuff. So if you look at that, then their health costs actually go up because they are getting sick, more exposed to illnesses. So then if they don't have health care, they have medical debt, and then they can't get out of this poverty, and they're paying for that. They can't spend that money on the economy, and it just keeps going. You want to talk about trickle down economics? That is one of those things in a negative aspect. Okay, so if we have universal health care for all children, fine. If you want to argue, no, not for parents, whatever, but all children are covered. How about we just start with that? How about we just experiment with that? Regardless of what your age is, what your immigration status, if you're a U.S. citizen, how about we just try to implement all children, so 18 and under, are covered no matter what if their parents have it? That's a solution. If children are our future for our economy, right? If that's the argument, the pro-life, pro-choice, or pro-birth, I should say, right? If that's the thing, why not make the children's lives better so they can get and be prosperous in schools, get an education? They're not in poverty as much, but they can get proper health care aspects. It will help. Social contract theory again, everybody. So here's the statistics for you. Immigrants who are undocumented pay more in their income in states and local taxes than the top 1%. Wait a minute, what? No way, everybody. The top 1% wealthy, so like your billionaires or your upper millionaires, right? The nine figures people. So on average, the effective state and local tax nationally, 8% of unauthorized immigrants are paying the taxes, while the top 1% are only paying their fair share of 5.8. All right. So think about that. If undocumented immigrants are contributing more to the tax system than the wealthy. Here's the solution, everybody. Deport 11 million immigrants. Where's that taxes going to? Oh, and we're going to have a tax cut under Trump. I'm just thinking for a second. This is why I'm pausing. I'm trying to see where that money is. And they say, oh, we're going to cut spending. No, we don't cut spending in this country. Absolutely not. Heck, we're on a crisis, another government shutdown coming up because we can't get a budget passed. Because now, we need to have immigration in here. Stop. Get your job done. If I don't pay my bills, right, I get kicked out of my home. So maybe that's what should happen to the politicians. A whole different topic, right? So think about this. If the wealthy aren't even the ones who are paying, but illegal immigrants are paying more in taxes than the wealthy, what does that say about our tax system? Should we keep making tax breaks for the wealthy? That's slow no, right? Here's more statistics for you. Children's health care, uninsured rates much higher among immigrants. So 4% of the children population in the United States is children who are children of parents that are citizens of this country that are uninsured. So if we can't even insure our own citizens, that's pretty sad, everybody. 4% of children are uninsured because their parents can't afford health insurance. That's just wrong in so many levels, right? Citizen children with a non-citizen parent. It is very much a citizen and a non-citizen that could be married or had a child. That is 7% of the children's population in the United States have no insurance. Lawful represented immigrant children. So those who come here documented, 19% don't have health insurance. Come on. Really? We need immigrants to come over here and work. It helps our economy. Those who come here legally and they can't even get health insurance under our American system because we don't have universal health care. But my God, if I take a trip to another country that has universal health care, I go in, I get treated. Lastly is undocumented immigrant children. This is the strain that they have on themselves for coming here. The risks, 31% of undocumented children of parents do not have access to health care. That's not good. Think about all those statistics, right? That's a lot. Our healthcare system isn't the best. It still also needs to go through a little bit of an evolutional change, I think. Okay, more statistics here. Last statistics of the solution-based thing to talk about. Workers who are unauthorized are most at risk for wage violation. That means they are being basically discriminated on wages. They're not getting paid what they should be. So the share of low-wage workers in Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York City pay below the minimum wage. So top 3 major cities in the United States. Unauthorized foreign-born workers, and they do make up a hefty amount of our economic population of workers. 37% of unauthorized born workers are getting paid below what they should be. So let's say federal minimum wage is $7.25. They're getting paid below minimum wage. That would be the example I'm trying to compare with, right? I couldn't find the numbers of like, well, this group and this group. Let's just use minimum wage. Easy number. Federal, $7.25. 37% of illegal immigrants here are below what would be considered that minimum wage pay, right? That's the example I'm using. Authorized foreign-born workers. So that means those who've actually gone through the legal process. If you check out my previous episodes on that, right? 21% are not paid correctly. They're below what they should be paid. Wow. Okay. So are we seeing a problem here that companies are just not forking over the money? Maybe. Just keep saying this. But then here's another great statistics. U.S. born workers, 16% have wage violations against them. They're not getting paid a wage that they should be getting. That's sad. All right. We shouldn't even have that as a statistic. So those are some solution-based. Those are some statistics that I propose to like, hey, we need to do something about this. So real quick, back to that, tie it back into the education aspect of reform. And we need to do some overhauling in our education system. Like I mentioned, in 1917, the Smith-Hodges Act created the vocational school system. That would be your K through 12 system. So that's been around for 107 years. We really haven't changed that approach since that. Some other major changes, key things in there. 1950, Congress approves permanent impact aid for school districts that have large presence of federal facilities. In the first year, the government distributed $30 million to 1,172 school districts. By 1978, we were distributing $775 million annual to 4,368 school districts. So what that means is in 1950, we start having federal funding for education, right? So you're looking at approximately 33 years after the vocational area schools being created. Now we have federal funding. Another wonderful statistic is in 1990, the Bush administration creates a national goals for K through 12, increasing the federal government funding education but also trying to micromanage schools. Yeah, federal government has heavily been influenced in our schools, but schools are very much dependent on that federal funding. 1994, under Clinton, signs a law, Goals 2000, Educate American Act to promote national educational goals. So if states do not comply with these other mandates, they lose their federal funding. So once again, we put kind of like, hey, you got to meet these goals, right? 1998, we have Reading Excellence Act being passed and No Child Left Behind, which as an educator, I'm going to just say was awful. It absolutely was awful under the Bush administration and actually hurt schools more than anything, to meet certain standards and benchmarks to get federal funding. Last major investment in education is 2008. Department of Education spent $68 billion or more, and doubling from that. That's just the revenue. So we really haven't done anything overhauled for our education system in 22 years. I think it's time, with a generational shift, a massive amount of immigration that's come through here. Yeah, we just need an overhaul. It's a whole different topic to talk about. Let's keep moving on because there's plenty to talk about. Another inquiry question that I proposed for this topic: what is the fiscal drain on the economy of legal immigrants and U.S. born? So now we're going to shift a topic: those who come here naturally, and as well as you're just an American citizen and you live here. So legal immigrants and U.S. born Americans with high school or less education are also a net fiscal drain, right? So lack of education, right, is causing harm. Goes back to the previous things I said about statistics about education, how we need to change things. So what is the impact of legal immigration on the economy? Here we go. Let's rattle these off. Legal immigrants do increase costs on communities in the use of public services like education, healthcare, and public safety. Legal immigrants' economic contributions far outweigh the cost of additional public services. So once again, we bring in legal immigration, right? Gone through the whole process. They do benefit. If we can't fill the jobs based on Americans, we outsource, basically. That's what it is. Bringing in immigrants to fill those positions, right? Which then will benefit the community long term. The growth of immigrants' populations has helped strengthen the Americans' labor force. Well, yeah, if we have a decline in American population of birth rates, to supplement that, we do need immigrants to keep coming here, right? Otherwise, we keep saying, oh, we have a shortage of workforce. So my thing here is, if birth rates are looking to continue to decline, right, we need to fill that gap with immigrants. We can't turn away immigrants. That is how we boost our population, and that is how we keep our economy going. So I tried to do some deep research into comparing legal documented immigrants and their contribution and versus undocumented immigrants and their contribution to the economy. So if I start with this, legal documented immigrants make up around 46.1 million Americans here workforce. Undocumented illegal immigrants is around 9.9 in the workforce. 9.9 million, I should say, in the workforce, which is roughly around 3% of the U.S. population. And also, you have the DACA eligible population in the workforce as well. So I looked at like entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs are ones who start up businesses. Innovation. That's a key thing to keep the economy rolling. So immigrants, around 3.6 million, so about 22.6% of the working population are legally immigrants who are starting businesses. This is bringing in 110 billion in total business income to our economy. That's awesome, right? So to secure entrepreneurs that are illegal, is 894,200. I don't have the data on the numbers on that, but almost a million illegal immigrants are entrepreneurs, which once again helps out communities, helps out the economy. And your DACA, which are technically illegals that have been here for a long period of time, 56,500 entrepreneur jobs based on that. That's a lot of entrepreneurs. So you're probably looking at almost a quarter of the US workforce of entrepreneurs is made up of immigration aspects, illegal and legal. Taxes and spending power, legally documented. All right. Total taxes paid by legally documented is $579.1 billion. Total spending power that they've got is 1.6 trillion. All right, in spending power. That's huge for the economy, right? And they are contributing, legal immigrants are contributing $194.5 billion to Social Security and $53.6 billion to Medicare. On the flip side of that, you have illegals who are contributing $35.1 billion in taxes, and they have spending power of $254.8 billion in the economy. You take that out, where are you going to make up that net gain of $254 billion if we deport 11 million immigrants? DACA immigrants are paying $7.3 billion in taxes, and they have spending capabilities on the economy as $23.3 billion. So once again, the contribution that they are doing for the economy is a significant amount. You pull that out, you're going to cause economic, what's the thing? Potential recession, right? There's an issue. Workforce, more statistics. I love statistics here. Legal immigrants, 29.4 million immigrants are in the labor force, and undocumented immigrants make up around 3.9% of the workforce. Once again, okay, then you have Americans that have got jobs, right? That's awesome. We're going to get to some of that as well. Top industries that have immigrants and I do believe non-immigrants. Let me just quickly scan through my statistics of where they are legally authorized. So, yeah. So if we're looking at this aspect of top industries, agriculture is at 25.3% of making up legal immigration. Construction is 25%, transportation is 21%, general services 20%, and professionals is around 20% as well. So a significant amount. Agriculture, grew up on a dairy farm myself. That's a hard job. Construction, another hard job, right? So think about, do a lot of Americans get into agriculture these days? No. Top occupations is mani and pedicures, making up 73% of that workforce. Plaster and stucco masons is making up 65% of that workforce. You've got taxi drivers making up 56%. You've got graders who are making up 54% of the workforce in agricultural aspect, and drywall installers are 52%. So a heavy amount of professions get it. STEM jobs, you basically your science, technology, engineering, math makes up 23.1% of legally documented immigrants. Healthcare, nurses who are foreign born make up 15.6%, and healthcare aides who are foreign born make up 27.7%. This is why immigrants are very much needed. And then naturalization of voting power. Immigrants who are naturalized, who become citizens, have 52.4%, which is around 24.4% 1 million, and eligible naturalization immigrants that are now citizens eligible to vote is around 23.4 million. So there's all your wonderful statistics based on that. They contribute quite a bit to the entire workforce and the economy. So from my source of American Immigration Council, workforce, nationally immigrants are more likely to hold on average degree of U.S. born. They are also more likely to have less than a high school education, as such as able to fill criteria shortages of both ends, skills, spectrum, high tech. So once again, those STEM jobs, right? Healthcare, baby boomers, we need healthcare workers. They are helping fill those gaps. Educational aspect that you've got here, educational level, tie it back into what we talked about previously. Foreign-born population, 24.8% have less than a high school education, while U.S.-born population has 7.2%. High school and some college, 40.4% are foreign-born, while U.S. is 59.9%. Then you've got bachelor's degree making up 19.1% of foreign-born versus the U.S. born citizens is 22.1%. Graduate degree is 15.6% that are foreign-born versus the U.S. born is 13.8%. And share of college-educated workers employed in jobs that don't require a college degree. So you have a college degree, but you don't need it, and you're working in those careers. 31% are foreign-born, while 28.4% are U.S. born from that. So once again, a lot of statistics I just threw at you that are contributing here. Here's another wonderful fun fact here. Unauthorized immigrants, they say it's the highest it's ever been. Actually, in 2007, it was the peak that we had at 12.2 million immigrants crossing, right? So we are below that, but that was the peak. Mexico immigrants are down to 4 million, and other countries is up to 6.9 million. So there's a switch in that, decline in immigrants from Mexico. More statistics that you've got here, unauthorized immigrants versus legal immigrants, 14% versus 15%, 14% unauthorized versus 15% in agriculture. So it's making up that 29%. So I just look at these statistics. Undocumented, unauthorized immigrants make up half of that demographic of immigrants in agriculture, constructional, personal services, leisure, hospitality, and manufacturing. This would contribute to farming, construction, production, services, and transportation. All right. So they fill in a lot of jobs Americans do not want. Farming. All right. I know from experience, my family has a hard time filling jobs needed on agriculture sector, right? Construction workers, same thing. I have families who are in construction, can't find workers to do that. They're filling these gaps, right? So if Americans don't want to do these jobs, someone has to. This is where immigration comes in that factor, right? And last thing that I need to end with is my last question that I've got here is, what would be the impact of deporting 11 million immigrants on the U.S. economy? So this source comes from the Center for Immigration Studies. So removing undocumented residents from mixed status households would reduce median household income from $41,300 to $22,000, a drop of $19,300 or 47%, which would plunge millions of U.S. Americans' families into poverty. If just 1/3 of the U.S.-born children of undocumented residents remained in the United States following a mass deportation program, which is a very low estimate, the cost of raising those children through their minority would total $118 billion. That's another strain on the economy. But wait, we just lost that money because we deported them, right? The nation's housing market would be jeopardized because a high percentage of 1.2 million mortgages held by households with undocumented immigrants would be in peril. So that's going to put a strain on the housing market. Foreclosures disrupt the housing market. Gross domestic GDP, right? Gross domestic product, the GDP, would be reduced by 1.4% in the first year, and a cumulative GDP would be reduced by 4.7 trillion over 10 years. That doesn't sound good either. So here's some examples of deportation in U.S. history. In 1929 to 1937, so during the Great Depression, right, we did a deportation, and this source comes from the University of New Hampshire, Carsey School of Public Policy. 400 to 500,000 first and second generation Mexican immigrants between 1929 and 1937 were deported. So without immigrant workers, employers eliminated higher paying jobs of native-born workers that relied on immigrant workers. So instead of like bringing in workers that are needed for the Depression, it actually caused more unemployment. And we didn't hire those jobs, and they were actually getting paid less than what they had before the Depression. So it was a negative effect. In 1964, removals, same source, removed almost 500,000 Mexican agriculture workers from the United States in 1964. The goal was to improve employment and wages of non-immigrant agriculture workers. However, this didn't happen, right? Instead of hiring more non-immigrant farm workers, employers turned to mechanical machinery, basically, and other processes changes to produce farm output or simply decrease domestic production. So innovation in technology replaces workers. We still have that today. And last example that I've got is the Secure Communities deportation from 2008 to 2015, same source, deportation of more than 454,000 unauthorized individuals, reduced the employment share of U.S.-born workers by 0.5% and reduced their hourly wage by 0.6%. So once again, a negative effect on the economy, negative effect on wages, right? Wages are not going to go up if you give the Americans the jobs that illegals have. That doesn't work that way. Two factors of reduction of native-born citizens is reduction of local consumption that followed from deportation of thousands of people caused job losses for native-born workers across all skill levels. Yeah, here's supply and demand. You've got these undocumented immigrants who are working. You pull them out in deportation, right? And now they are not producing for the economy. So there's less goods being bought. So that means the company is having less income coming in because less goods are being bought. So they have to produce less. So they cut workers. See the effects? The second one is potentially increases in jobs among low-skilled native-born workers who have been substitutes for the deported workers were more than offset by the decrease in jobs for middle-skilled native-born workers, right? Who were complements for the deported workers. So basically, we took these skilled workers and put them in these low-skilled positions and paid them less. So their wages go down. So then they can't buy as many goods. And then potentially you have to cut more employees, which is a negative effect on the economy. Big drain, right? That's the problem. So in retrospect here, to sum it up, immigration is good for the economy. Yes. Is there a strain from illegal immigration on the economy? Yes. Are there solutions we can propose to help this? Yes. Deportations is not an example. I just gave you 3 examples of U.S. history deportations, and they were negative effects on the economy and wages for American-born workers. So Trump wants to do this again. It's only going to cause more problems. We don't have a solution from Harris. We don't have really a solution from Trump. This is what is needed. We need to be proactive in our solutions, not problem-based solutions to do something. Hey, here's the problem. Let's make it a bigger problem. We take people out, and now we got to now we have a big gap in workers, and now people aren't buying any goods because we lost all that money in the economy. All right. So there are things we can do. All right. Yeah, it's a lot of tension at the border, but solution-based methods to help Americans under social contract theory, what's best for the community is not deportation. You need to have better services. We need to keep advancing our society. And that's what we're going to get to later on. So, with that, thank you for joining me today. Yes, it's a very, very long episode. I'll try to wrap up immigration in this episode. Like it, love it, subscribe, share it out to people, get the word out. It's very important to get educated. That is so key. Knowledge is power. Enthusiasm pulls that switch. Early voting starts in some states on, I do believe, tomorrow. So here we go. We're in election season, voting season, everybody. So get out and vote. It is so, so critical. Exercise your right to vote. You have it. You have that power. Thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you all next week. Bye. Whew.